welcome to another episode of SMC Reviews. Today we will be talking about another Disney animation to live action remake, Cinderella. Now, it's Cinderella. You all know the story, and if you haven't, you've been under a rock for the last 200 years. So, needless to say, this is going to be full of spoilers, and there are a few little twists and turns in there, but apart from that, it's Cinderella. You all know the story. So a little bit of background. As we know, this is based off of the Disney animated version that was made in 1953, I think, or 1950. Around about there. And it was based off of a French book. And it's the classic rag to riches story of a young girl whose parents died, and then her stepmother essentially bitch along with her stepsisters. She's all sad. Fairy godmother comes along and bibbidi boppity boo. She goes to the ball, meets a prince, leaves because she has to go by midnight, leaves a slipper, goes home, prince finds the slipper, tries it on all the girls in the kingdom, finds Cinderella, slipper fits, etc., etc. First, what I think of the 1950s version, Cinderella gets a lot of bad press, like, oh, I'm just a princess, I'm gonna stay here and wait for my Prince Charming to come, and I'm not gonna do nothing at all, ha ha ha. I actually will defend Cinderella in the fact that if you think about it, watch it again before you see this movie, and you will see that it's this story. It's not her wanting to find her prince, it's just this poor girl in a crappy situation due to the time period. She doesn't have a lot of opportunities. And all she wants to do is go to the ball. She's not interested in true love. She doesn't want to, find a prince. She just wants to get out and have fun for once because her stepsisters and stepmother are being a total bitch. Lady Tremaine, which is the evil stepmother, is such a great villain in the animated version. And she's really good here in the live action movie. I'll get that to in a minute. But yeah, so guys, watch it again. It's just about this poor girl who's essentially a slave, and she just wants to go to a party. And, yeah, that's all. It's not full love. Of course, when she actually gets to the ball, there's that whole, love at first sight stuff. And, I'm not saying it's the best movie in the world, but, I understand people have problems about it. But again, if you just sweep that under the rug with the time period, it's a nice film. We've all seen it. I'm sure everyone enjoys it. Now, to this movie. Lillian James plays Cinderella, who I believe is on Downton Abbey. Haven't personally watched it, but that's what I've heard. And we have the Prince Charming, who's known as Kit in this movie. He is played by James Madden, who most of you will probably recognize as Robb Stark from Game of Thrones. And he actually doesn't look too bad once he's all cleaned up and, shaved. And then we also have another actor, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he's the giant guy when they get to the city of Karth in Game of Thrones. He's also in the Dracula TV show I keep talking about. And then you have Cate Blanchett as the evil stepmother, and she is amazing in this role. She's such a bitch. It's great. So yeah, the story plays out, same as the movie. Positives about this movie, we actually just get to see a little bit more backstory with Cinderella and with her mom, which was nice. And, how the whole message of the story is have courage and be kind. And her interaction with her father, and how everything was all hunky-dory until her father died. And so there's that. And then it proceeds to what we all know and love. There are mice friends, and if you remember in the animated version, she had a dog. In this version, she has a pet goose, which is funny. He's always making a little, popping his head up in there, so the goose is funny. And there's 4 mice. There is Gus's in this movie, and instead of Jacques, it's Jacqueline. And I swear to God, they'll squeak and squeak, but I swear to God, one of them says Cinderella. I will put money on it. Anyway, so, and also positive about this movie is that she meets the prince in the woods. And she actually has a conversation with him, which is good. actually recognize each other and see each other. So there's that, and he's trying to pretend that he's not a prince. He's actually an apprentice. So then there's that, and then story carries on, so on and so forth. And there's this whole thing in the kingdom how the prince doesn't want to marry another princess because he doesn't know her, and it's like, for the good of the kingdom, you must do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm in love with this peasant girl, blah, blah, blah. So then there's that. Again, the story up to the one part that, like, I'll get to the language in a minute. So, comes in, time to go to the ball. Sisters rip the dress. Fairy godmother comes in, played by Helena Bonham Carter. So she does they say bibbidi bobbidi boo. That's as close as reference you're going to get to that song. And you actually hear Cinderella when she's feeding the chickens, sing, sweet nightingale. So it's just little references to songs from the Disney animated version. So, godmother does her thing. She goes to the ball. She's the prince again. The sets in this movie are insane. This is such a pretty movie to look at. And the dresses are pretty. The cast is great. And there's always something new to look at. Everything's so stylized. And it looks like it's essentially plucked out of that movie. And so again, bell strikes midnight. She runs off, leaves the slipper. And it's so on and so forth from there. Now, another good thing they changed is the stepmother actually finds the glass slipper and threatens Cinderella, saying, you take this to the prince, I'll go with you, and when you get married, I'm going to help run over you two, and my two daughters are going to be married to lords, and I'm just going to control the kingdom. Cinderella says no, and, well, the evil stepmother's like, well, fuck you, smashes the slipper, and then heads out the door, locks her in the room, and she goes to the Grand Duke and threatens him, saying that, the peasant girl is the mystery. They think that the Cinderella's a mystery princess. So she goes, threatens him, makes a deal. If he allows the prince to not find Cinderella, instead marry another princess from another kingdom, he will make her a countess, and her daughters will marry lords, and blah. And then, same stuff happens. They try on the slipper, and everyone in the kingdom. And the prince is actually with the company trying on all the slippers and all the lands. And he actually puts the slipper onto Cinderella. And everybody's happy, and they all live happy ever after. You know the story. Negatives about this movie. Two negatives about this movie that really irked me. Is that the dress ripping scene. If you watch the animated version, it's actually kind of dramatic. It's like, holy crap, they all go psycho. It's kind of heart-wrenching. They don't really do it in this scene. They kind of like rip her sleeve, and they rip it a little bit, but like, that's it. It's not like slashed and ripped to shreds till all you're wearing is essentially a sheet. It's just a little sleeve in there. So that annoyed me. Because that's really a big dramatic scene. It's like, oh no, Cinderella, no. And they just downplay it here. That scene is kind of replaced with an earlier scene before where the stepmother refuses to let Cinderella eat with them. And she just like collapses in the kitchen crying. Why they chose the dramatic scene instead of the dress scene, I don't know. The second scene, which also annoys me, I'm making all these comparisons to the Disney version. In the animated version, he goes to when the stepmother locks Cinderella in the room, she's like freaking out, she's screaming and banging on the door. In this version, she's just like, she gets locked in the door, she's just like, oh well, and just sits by the window and just, staring off his page, trying to remember, doesn't even attempt to get out of the door, like, doesn't get a chair, try to break the door down or anything. The mice save her, as opposed in this version, because she's so dumb. At the end, she's like remembering how nice it was, and she's twirling and singing, and she's content just living with the memory of how she spent with the prince, even though she knows that the stepmother knows and will probably go and threaten the prince, but she just does nothing. She's just like, la 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 la. So that part's annoying. But apart from those two little things, the movie's great. In this version, I found that in this version they focus a lot on the prince, which I understand because in the last movie the prince had like 2, maybe 3 lines, if you're counting the song. But in this, it really focuses on the prince and his dilemma, and I think a little bit more attention with the prince than with Cinderella. But again, James Madison's a great actor, so he carries it well. So yeah, that's about it. You know, this is just a simple Cinderella story. It's good. I give it 3 out of 5. Go see it if you like Cinderella. Take the kids, whatever. It's a good, nice family film, and hopefully you will enjoy it. So that's it for what are we in? March? Nothing's really coming out in April, and again, this is probably gonna be the last movie for a little while because, you know, school, exams, all that kind of stuff. So I think that my next review won't be till May, guys. Sorry. In May, we will be reviewing